What you gonna do? Hey, welcome to CopBlock Radio. We're here. It's Wednesday. Again, November 16th, 2016. And boy, we got some crazy headlines for you. I think the biggest one, I'll just out the gate, is breaking news. The law enforcer involved with shooting Philando Castile has been charged with manslaughter, and everyone applauds. It's big news. We've got other headlines. Woman dies serving 30 days in a jail sentence after medical requests were ignored. There's a lawsuit pending there, and a video of Massachusetts detective threatening to kill and plant drugs on teens has been released. We'll play that video for you here. Another video, Nevada CopBlock founder arrested while filming Las Vegas Police Metro. A op-ed by CopBlock's own Joshua Scott Hotchkin. Jail is hell on earth, and it escalates criminal behaviors. That got over 1,000 shares this week. Took me by surprise, but it's quite shareable, so it's worth sharing with you. Angry cops close U.S. border because of photography, and much more. I've got a music video from Rob Hustle for that song Good Cops. You remember this one? Let's see. Oh, here we go.
Let's talk about good cops. So where they at? Where they at? The triumph of evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at? Where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at?
Awesome music video coming out from Rob Hustle. And furthermore, we've got the video of the anti-Trump protesters hit by a car on the highway. Very controversial. Not sure what you're going to think about this. It really tore the activist community apart, where they were saying, these people shouldn't have been hit by cars, and other people were like, well, they shouldn't be standing in the street. You could kind of see it both ways. We'll get into that. And homeless banned from sleeping in autos in LA again. This story from Jeff for Justice, an impassioned report by a guy who's affected by that. And why should the police have this power to kick people out of their homes when their homes are on so-called city property? An interesting one. They could have compassion. They could build housing. The community could come together and support the homeless in some meaningful way. You're going to have to pay for the homeless somehow. They are a cost on society. So is this the right way to do it? I don't think so. Plus, I really want to get into this one. It's the 50-year anniversary of the founding of the Black Panthers. I am not a Black Panther. I don't support the Black Panthers. They're a socialist organization. They're militant, but there's some really cool things to learn from them. And the Huffington Post has put together 27 important facts everyone should know about the Black Panthers. So I want to share those with you. But first, let me just say, hey, I'm Derek J. I host the show every week. If you want to call into the show, you can do that on Skype. Our Skype username is CopBlock Radio. If you've got a story you want to share, this show, it exists to bring a voice to the people who want to make people aware of what's going on in their community, who want to hold police in their community accountable, and to spread their message, to broadcast to a wider audience and let people know and document what's been happening. Oftentimes there are thugs wearing costumes and badges in your neighborhood. And what do you do about it? Well, this is the first step. We report on it, we talk about it, we document it, record it. It's not sponsored by anyone in particular. This show it's not a commercial thing. It's a hobby because I think CopBlock is important, and the message of badges don't grant extra rights. That's what it's all about. So if you have a story that you want to share on CopBlock, the way these stories get to me is through the submit link on copblock.org/submit. And so let me read to you from one that was shared that way. Kelly W. Patterson broke this story for CopBlock. He writes, Minnesota police officer Geronimo Yanez has been charged with, remember they weren't even giving the name of this guy, has been charged with second-degree manslaughter for the shooting of Philando Castile in July of this year. The shooting received a large amount of public attention. Castile's girlfriend, Lavish Diamond Reynolds, posted video using Facebook Live, like right when it came out. It was a new thing and everyone was going live, of the immediate aftermath. Also, Castile's clean record and the lack of any actions by him to in any rational way justify his shooting created a large public outcry towards police. Ramsey County Attorney John Choi announced that charge, along with 2 felony counts of dangerous discharge of a firearm today. In doing so, he stated, quote, "No reasonable officer would have used deadly force under these circumstances." Choi also stated, quote, "It's not enough to express subjective fear of death or great bodily harm. That is somewhat of a welcome departure from the typical acceptance of a police officer simply proclaiming that he feared for his life as a blanket justification for their murders." And man, isn't that always the justification? Well, finally, people are sick of it. The culture has changed enough that they're not accepting that as a defense. And finally, people like this murderer wearing a badge and costume are actually charged like the rest of us. You know, hey, it turns out you murdered someone. You don't have special rights because you're a cop. You're going to be treated like everyone else under the rule of law. And if you murder someone, there are going to be consequences. So this comes from the Star Tribune. They say, Choi said he concluded, quote, "Use of deadly force by Officer Yanez was not justified. Yanez was charged Wednesday with second-degree manslaughter and 2 felony counts of dangerous discharge of a firearm." Yanez fatally shot Castile, age 32, July 6th, during a traffic stop in Falcon Heights, in which Castile informed the officer that he had a gun in his possession. A video recorded by Castile's girlfriend showing him bleeding in the car while the officer held him at gunpoint has been viewed millions of times around the world and touched off widespread outrage and protests over several years of police killing black men. To those of you who say this incident was Philando Castile's fault, I would submit that no reasonable officer, knowing, seeing, and hearing what Officer Yanez did at the time, would have used deadly force under these circumstances, Choi said. And, quote, "I have given Officer Yanez every benefit of the doubt on his use of deadly force, but I cannot allow the death of a motorist who was lawfully carrying a firearm under these facts and circumstances to go unaccounted for." In an interview, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, the day after the shooting, Yanez provided information that was, quote, "inconsistent with statements immediately following the incident," Choi said. And remember, John Choi, is the Ramsey County attorney, and so he's the one who's bringing this cop up on charges. And typically these guys, you know, it's a boys' club. They all know each other. They go out for drinks. These are the people who float in each other's circles, and they look out for each other. You know, oh, hey, yeah, you murdered that guy. Hey, watch that. You know, try and not make it so obvious next time. You know, the girlfriend caught it on video. Well, there's nothing they can do when you've got it on video. These charges, are you kidding me? This would not be brought up. If there was no video, if there was no evidence of what had happened, there would be no public outcry. And there would be no consequences. There would be no justice. And thank goodness for the courage and willingness of Lavish Diamond Reynolds to post onto Facebook Live the way she did. And I think Facebook actually even decided to censor that. So she may have been better off using an app like, say, Cell411. It's a great app. GetCell411.com allows you to live stream and push the live stream out to Facebook, but they actually preserve your video. So you're in control of the video. You can download it later. That's not the case with Facebook Live. Go get it. If you don't have this app on your phone right now, what's wrong with you? What are you waiting for? Waiting for that emergency to happen when you finally need it? No. Download it now. Practice it. Connect with your friends and, you know, call them up when you have an emergency instead of calling 911 and having the police come and shoot your dog. We've got great stories coming up, things that are going to warm your heart and make you cry. Coming up, CopBlock Radio. Yeah, so if you've been following some of these anti-Trump protests, it's nuts. They're going out into the street, they're breaking windows, they're sitting outside of Trump's house saying rape Melania. Really well-behaved individuals here, don't you think? Even more reason for New Hampshire to secede. I went to one such anti-Trump rally this week. I was there recording the police and also recording some of the protesters to see how it might differ from what's going on in the rest of the country. And you can check that video out, freekeen.com. I didn't post it to CopBlock because I didn't have any encounters with law enforcement, but I think it's still worth mentioning that not everyone is losing their S about what's going on with the transition of power, the selection, as I call it. All right. This one's heavy, but it's important. Video, it's another reason for New Hampshire to secede. Video of Massachusetts detective threatening to kill/plant drugs on teens released. And the video is half an hour long. I'm not going to be able to show you the whole thing, but I can recap. Last month, I blogged about the case of a Springfield, Massachusetts detective who threatened to beat and murder 2 teens. This is Kelly Patterson writing at copblock.org. He says, in addition, Detective Greg Bigda stated that he would plant drugs on their bodies in order to justify his actions. As I point out in that first article, Detective Bigda has a history of misconduct and violent behavior as well. Isn't that a prerequisite for becoming a law enforcer? From the original post. The threat to crush their skulls and then place cocaine in their pocket took place during an interrogation that was recorded by video surveillance cameras. The video has not been released publicly, supposedly to protect the identity of the teens he threatened to violently kill. In spite of being caught red-handed issuing these threats, Detective Big Duh is not being charged with a crime, nor will he even be fired from the police department and forced to go work for a different department in another area of the state. Instead, he just received a suspension and will be back on the streets, protecting and serving the shit out of citizens of Springfield in 60 short days. The 2 teens and another teen were accused of stealing an unmarked police car. Okay, all right, that's pretty funny. That another detective had left idling and probably illegally parked outside a pizza shop. Okay, I can't be the only one who thought of this. Every time I see one of those unmarked police cars idling, or just any cop car sitting there with its engine on, and the cop is standing around doing nothing. They did this at the protest this weekend. I mean, they leave their cars running for Lord knows why. I mean, they got to jump in the car. They don't have time to turn the key. I don't understand. I guess that, they have no consequences for running out of gas. It's just endless gas. You and me, we got to pay for our own gas. But them, it's just it's a free ride all the time. We get these cars. Ooh, look, we could just damage them. We can go use our walkie-talkies and our laptops and our toys, and we can ram into other cars. And who cares? The people are paying for it. All right. So they stole a police car that was illegally parked outside a pizza shop, and as they were being arrested for that offense, an unnamed Springfield police officer kicked one of the teens in the face after he was already handcuffed and lying on the ground. There's no indication that this law enforcer received any punishment at all for his assault on a defenseless teenager. Now, that video has been released by The Republican, a Springfield area newspaper, and according to a post at Photography Is Not a Crime, they are as bad, if not worse, than advertised. During the videos, Detective Greg Big Duh makes a number of threats against the teens, neither of whom had an attorney or legal guardian present or were read their rights. The interrogations were conducted at the Palmer Police Station. Bigda tells both teens that he is eventually taking them back to the Springfield Police Department, which he stresses does not have cameras. In the first video, he tells a 16-year-old boy in a red shirt, "See that camera up there? It doesn't fucking exist. So anything that happens to you, At my place, never happened. If I don't write it in my report, it never happened. He later tells the teen, oh, big guy, right? Big man threatening some 16-year-old boy. Trying to, like, poor. But honestly, I have empathy for this law enforcer to a degree, because if he's treating a kid this way, you could damn well better believe he was treated this way. He doesn't just learn this out of nothing. He was abused himself, and the cycle of violence continues. But we have to stop these thugs from abusing children, from abusing teenagers, from abusing adults, from abusing anyone. He later tells the teen, quote, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you when you get back to the Springfield office, because right now, you just lied to my face. When we get back, I'm going to tune you the fuck up, because you just lied to me. And I'm telling you in advance, and I'm being nice to you. Yeah, this sick fuck. In the second video, a teen wearing a gray shirt says that his face hurts. Big Duh responds, you think it hurts now? You know where we're going after this? We're going back to fucking Springfield. He then explains how the Springfield police station doesn't have cameras. He makes another threat to injure the teen's face later in the video, even telling him it will require a trip to the hospital. The threats continue, quote, I could fucking crush your skull and fucking get away with it. Big Da then threatens to fucking bring the dog back and let him fucking go after you. And, quote, don't even fucking speak if you're gonna lie to me, because I'll fucking kill you in the parking lot. And, quote, I'll charge you with killing Kennedy and fucking make it stick. I'm not hampered by the fucking truth, because I don't give a fuck. I'll stick a fucking kilo of coke in your pocket and put you away for fucking 15 years. In the third video, Big Duh retains the red-shirted teen again. He says, quote, when we get back to Springfield, I'm not even waiting for Springfield. When we get that fucking lion, I'm gonna bloody your body. In all three videos, Detective Luke Cornerer is with Big Duh and does not seem bothered by his threats and coercive interrogation techniques. Yeah, see, this is the thing that they say about there's no such thing as a good cop, right? Because if there are, they stand up against people like this and then they get fired. So this guy who's standing by watching a man threaten teenagers is fucking evil. He's totally evil because he could stop this guy at any minute, and he chooses not to. He chooses to participate and let this go on. And this isn't the first and last time he's going to see this. This is a common occurrence in police departments all across the country. So if you don't think this is happening in your town, wake up. Okay? You're just knowing about this because video exists. Here, I'll play just a sample from this video, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Listen to this guy.
Who's the kid at the hospital and thought, oh, look at that. You know what that is? What is that? That's his motherfucking blood, right? How old are you? 16, all right. You know what that means? When you have to Springfield, fucking the thief, all right? Speak to him.
Big men threatening teenagers, huh? Boy, that's how we get justice. Well, thank goodness for video. It's changing the game. We'll be right back with more.
RN.FM.
All right. Let's inject a little bit of humor into this broadcast, shall we? It gets so heavy sometimes. So here is a submission by Mikhail Bavatsarvia at the CopBlock submissions page. How to get out of a speeding ticket. Late one night, a man is driving down the road, speeding quite a bit. A cop notices how fast he's going and pulls him over. The cop says to the man, "Are you aware of how fast you are going?" The man replies, "Yes, I am. I'm trying to escape a robbery I got involved in." The cop gives him a skeptical look and says, "Were you the one being robbed?" The man casually replies, "No, I committed the robbery." The cop looks shocked that the man admitted this. "So you're telling me you were speeding and committed a robbery?" "Yes," the man calmly says. "I have the loot in the back." The cop begins to get angry. Sir, I'm afraid you're going to have to come with me. The cop reaches in the window to subdue the man. Don't do that, the man yells fearfully. I'm scared you'll find the gun in my glove compartment. The cop pulls his hand out. Wait here. The cop calls for backup. Soon, cops, cars, and helicopters are flooding the area. The man is cuffed quickly and taken towards a car. However, before he gets in, a cop walks up to him and says, while gesturing to the cop that pulled him over, Sir, this officer informed us that you had committed a robbery, had stolen loot in the trunk of your car, and had a loaded gun in your glove compartment. However, we found none of these things in your car. The man replies, Yeah, and I'll bet that liar said I was speeding, too. All right. Just a little bit of humor. Just a little bit. Make you laugh. Have you ever been pulled over by a car? Hopefully, or by a cop. Hopefully you have not encountered any law enforcement this week. I've been safe myself. I haven't seen any encounters. I haven't been pulled over or whatever. So I hope you're safe too. And if you see them, you better record. Here's a crazy story, and this one has some video attached. And I don't agree with some of the language James Peach uses in his article, but I appreciate that he recorded what happened. So the headline is, Cops Attempt Felony Coercion, Fail, Then Cry to Manager. He writes, The lovely pigs of the Portland Police Bureau once again have proven they have no respect for civil liberties. Now, I personally object to calling law enforcers pigs. It's played. It's not that it just doesn't belong or that it's rude. It's just it's a played term. Like it's square. It's lame to call cops pigs now. It makes you look like a douche. And there's plenty of fun, creative terms that people can use. Instead, I like lawless enforcers or cockroaches. There's a million of them, but pigs is like, that's from the 60s, 70s or whatever, and it's old. It's dead. On October 27th, 2016, James writes, I came across two law enforcers interacting with a woman. An employee of Ace Hardware on 122nd and Powell called the cops because the woman had been sitting in her car for over 2 hours in the parking lot, according to the broadcast on the scanner. I arrived just after the first law enforcer and before the second law enforcer. I began filming from 3 parking spaces away. And by the way, I feel like it's worth mentioning, I'm changing the term officer and some of the language that the people writing these stories use, because officer is a term that suggests authority, and law enforcer is really just, they are enforcers. That's really what they are. They're not officers. They don't work in some office, and they're not officials. They're not. They're people in costumes. They're thugs, and they don't deserve the term officer, so I won't use it. I began filming from 3 parking spaces away. I moved closer, and the law enforcers made no comment, though they were aware. After about 5 minutes, one law enforcer moved around the vehicle and began looking in the car, at which time I couldn't hold my tongue and asked if she consented to a search. That's when the law enforcer lost his cool and began giving me unlawful orders. After his attempted coercion failed, he reverted to crying to the store manager to have me trespassed. As I was not sure if the manager had the authority or not on the shared parking lot, I didn't want to press the issue. This is a classic example of Portland police tactics, attempting to use felony coercion to impede the constitutionally protected right to film the police. Under Portland law, the threat of arrest, especially upon someone who they continually target for exactly that, is felony coercion. Portland police also love to use their shiny badges and state-granted authority to convince managers to trespass CopBlockers. They do it all the time. But this is the first time on camera that they have blatantly said they are going to have the owner remove someone. That generally happens behind closed doors, which leaves us with no proof. Here, however, we have proof of blatant violation of rights, as well as a classic example of Portland police officers' regular attempts at coercion. Had I not known my rights, the law enforcer would have succeeded in his attempt. Most people are not aware what the definition of interfering is in their area. In Oregon, anyone can talk as much as they would like, and that can't be considered interference. This law is likely different from state to state, so look up your local rules before you tell a cockroach to fuck off. Then, once you know you're legal, tell them to fuck off at your own risk. And remember, always film the police. You never know what might happen. Just the act of filming them can often change how they act. And if you'd like to let Ace Hardware know violation of rights is unacceptable, you can give them a ring. Their media relations department is 630-990-3600. Excellent contribution. Thank you, James Peach. And his video,
In a classic example of blue egos mattering, this officer was obviously upset that James was documenting and informing this woman of her rights. According to the Oregon Revised Statutes here in this lovely state of ours, words are not considered interference. This cop actually took it upon himself to not only tell James, hey, I'm going to violate your civil rights by going over there and asking the manager to have you leave because he didn't like being filmed. This is unlawful and a complete violation of James's civil rights. Prima facie evidence of Portland Police Bureau trampling the rights of people whom not only have a First Amendment right according to the U.S. Constitution, but the Oregon Constitution has been modified to include filming as a protected right. This video has been edited for time. The full and complete police interaction.
Yeah, and that's a great idea, by the way, of making a short edited video with just the action shot, cut to the chase, so that the video can go viral and spread. People can see what the bottom line point is, but also post the full unedited video with links to both so that if people question your credibility or say that you threatened or did something wrong or you're hiding something, you can prove that you're not. Now, here's an interesting one. Video. Bowling Green man, that's in Wyoming, I believe, arrested by police for working without permission. What? Now, you might think this is impossible. But when a mafia controls the systems of daily life through a monopoly of lawful force and coercion, a man can be jailed for voluntarily agreeing to do work for someone else, just because the local mafia didn't get their cut. Mobsters, plain and simple. I was wrong. It is not Bowling Green, Wyoming, or Indiana for that matter. It is Kentucky. And this is crazy video. I'm not going to be able to play the whole thing. But this dude gets arrested. I'll tell the story first. Here's just a sample clip. Take a listen to this.
Two options, but I don't want to go to that point. Okay, there's no reason to go.
Then let me go on about my business. I have an appointment I'm supposed to be at.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you, those are the options at this point. Okay?
Because I've committed some heinous crime that deserves.
I didn't say
well,
that. Okay.
You're still harassing me.
Okay.
And you're threatening to enslave me. You just said we can go to jail. So you're threatening to enslave me.
Listen, I'm going to ask you again. Okay. I need to see your driver's license, please.
That's not
when
asking.
an attorney tells me I have to provide you with identification, I'll do whatever my attorney tells me to do.
Okay. We're not going to get an attorney here. There's no reason to get an attorney.
Well, I have a right to legal representation. Police officers can lie to people during the course of their investigation. That Supreme Court has said that. Okay. So you could be lying to me right now about everything you've said, and without an attorney to tell me that I have to comply with you, I don't know. I could incriminate myself unknowingly because you're allowed to lie to me.
I'm telling you what the law states is that
But you're allowed to lie about that, sir.
Okay. Okay.
You're allowed to lie. You're actually trained. It's called verbal judo. They teach you how to lie to get people like me to trip up and incriminate ourselves for petty offenses that don't harm anybody.
All right, so there's just a sample. It's a longer video, so I won't be able to play the whole thing. But from the cameraman, he says, it all started about a month ago. I was sweeping up some dust and debris in the back bedroom of an apartment when I heard someone let themselves in the front door. I walked out, and a man said, I'm Marcus with the City of Bowling Green Business Licensing Division. Are you doing some work in here? I responded, I don't answer questions without my attorney present. And this is private property, so I'm going to have to ask you to leave unless you have a warrant. He asked a few more times, and I told him again that I don't answer questions. Then he asked if my boss was around. I told him, I don't answer questions. He kept asking questions along the same lines, and I ignored him as I politely ushered him back out the door. I locked up, and as I was getting in my vehicle to leave, I heard him say to his supervisor on the phone, well, I can't cite him if he doesn't identify himself. Since that encounter, the City of Bowling Green and the Warren County Licensing Board have shown up at a few other job sites, asking me questions which I refused to answer. On Monday, October 24th, they showed up again. After refusing to answer his questions and ignoring his demands to stop working, he called his supervisor. He again said, I can't fine him if he doesn't identify himself. And then to me, sir, she says you have to stop working. I asked, who said that? And he said, his supervisor. And I said, I don't work for her, and kept doing what I was doing. After that, he called the police. I was just about finished, and by the time I was packed up, the police had still not arrived. So I left, seeing as there was no legal reason for me to wait. The next morning, I was heading down the driveway of an apartment building. A police squad car pulled into the driveway, blocking my egress, and waved me down. I set the vehicle in park and started video recording. The law enforcers stated that they were there to, quote, investigate a possible unlicensed contractor. At this point, the stop is illegal. The police can't stop me for a civil infraction. And under Kentucky law, operating without a contractor's license is a civil matter. After they realized that they had no grounds to stop me, they switched their reason and said they stopped me for not wearing my seatbelt. I was still in the driveway on private property and was in the process of putting on my seatbelt when they blocked me. The law enforcers saw me dragging it across my body as they pulled out in front of me. At this point, I knew I was being full-on harassed and decided that a month of harassment was enough. If they wanted me, they were going to have to take me to jail. The whole interaction was caught on video, and the majority of it was streamed live to Facebook. After the arrest, I was taken to the Warren County Jail. Once there, I asserted my right to remain silent and refused to answer any questions without legal counsel. I also refused the medical screening. They said they could not book me until I had been medically cleared, so they loaded me up and took me to the hospital. There, several nurses and a doctor attempted to ask me questions, which I, again, refused to answer. One nurse asked for my insurance information, and I told her that I don't answer questions without my attorney. She said that if I didn't give them my insurance info, they would bill me personally for the visit. And I said, I'm here against my will. They have no right to bill me, and that I will not answer questions without an attorney. The doctor tried to check my pulse and blood pressure, and I pulled away. I said, please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. He kept trying to touch me, and I dropped to the floor and rolled away from him so he could not take my pulse. At that point, the law enforcers made the first overt threat of violence and said that if I did not let the doctor take my vitals, they would physically restrain me and warned me not to resist. At that point, I complied, although I did talk and cough and flail about, attempting to render the doctor's efforts useless. But they apparently got me, quote, medically cleared enough to take me back to the jail for booking. Back at the jail, I again refused to answer questions. After a while, they decided it was time for enhanced interrogation techniques. They strapped me in a restraint chair for 4 hours, refusing to let me use the restroom. The chair was very uncomfortable, and the restraints were very tight. I checked my capillary refill a couple of times, and near the end of the 4 hours, my hands were getting swollen. My legs had fallen asleep, and my capillary refill in my left hand was down to about 4 seconds. 1 to 2 seconds is normal or healthy. After 4 hours, I could no longer hold my bladder anymore, and was told that my choices were piss myself or answer questions. I chose the latter. Under duress, I answered their questions, and afterward was allowed to use the restroom. When they unstrapped me from the chair, they warned me not to move until the feeling returned to my legs, indicating that they knew what this chair was designed to do. I used the restroom, called my wife to post the bond, finished the booking process, pictures and fingerprints, signed for my property, and left. After I got home, I realized that the cash from my wallet was missing. Too late, since I had already signed for my property, but it definitely added insult to injury. At the end of the day, I was charged with no seatbelt and license not in possession. Is it any wonder why people say, fuck the police? These people are dangerous. Deprivation of rights by torture? We'll be right back with Hour 2.
The Republican Party's traditional values.
Congress and the president say they're trying to help fix our country's economy. Ronald Reagan and the Republican Party have the right idea for America's future.
This is the Onion News Network.
Hour number 2 of CopBlock Radio. Let's do this. We've been through some crazy stories. Just a brief recap. In reverse order, a man was tortured by the state mafia for the crime of working without their blessing, aka without them taking a cut. Tortured, literally tortured, held, brought to a hospital, made to give exams and give fingerprints, give photographs, and all this stuff over being harassed. And what were his charges in the end? Not wearing a seatbelt. They didn't have shit, okay? And they tortured a guy. This is happening all over. It's just, this guy reported about it on CopBlock, but it's happening to all kinds of people. Then, cockroaches caught threatening a cop blocker on video. Good thing he got video. How to get out of a speeding ticket. Massachusetts law enforcers threatened to kill and plant drugs on teenagers. And a law enforcer charged with manslaughter in the shooting of Philando, Castile. And in hour number 2, let's begin with this story. Update: St. Paul officer who broke ribs of innocent man during canine attack on video fired. First, let's take a listen to this video.
Hold on. Yep. Put your fucking hand on the ground. Don't move. Turn over. Please.
Get in the house! Good. Get in the house! Get in the fucking ground! Get your hands in! Get in! Move! Get in! Boy! Get on the ground! Fucking ground! Move! Fucking boy! Good boy! Put your hands off your side! Don't move! Do not move! You understand? Good boy! Good boy! Don't move! Get your hands out right now! Do not move! Cut that in. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy.
Disturbing audio, to be sure. Earlier this week, Asa J reported on the story of Frank Baker, an innocent man who was simply walking home when he was attacked by law enforcers from the St. Paul Police Department in June. One of those law enforcers, canine handler Brian Ficciadente, allowed his dog to bite Baker for over a full minute. Another officer, Brett Palkowicz, then kicked him 3 times in the ribs, breaking several of them and causing him to suffer a collapsed lung. As a result of his injuries, the innocent Frank Baker was confined to the hospital for 2 weeks during his recovery, and now has permanent scars and injuries as a result. Whoops! What can you say except taking full responsibility for not abolishing the police sooner, according to Asa's original post. According to reports, 52-year-old Frank Baker, 52, was mauled by the police dog for over a minute and was kicked 3 times by one law enforcer. He suffered severe bites to his leg, broken ribs, and a collapsed lung. Law enforcers had responded to calls about a fight on June 24th and were told that that one of the individuals involved had a gun. As Baker matched the description of the suspect, the law enforcers told him to put his hands up after he was spotted in the area. Law enforcers said Baker raised one hand in the air before one of the law enforcers repeated the command, and the canine was released to apprehend him. Baker then fell to the ground when the dog initiated contact with him. Law enforcers reportedly told Baker to keep his hands visible, but when he was slow to respond, one of the law enforcers began kicking him in the ribs. Baker is heard screaming in pain on video, recorded from the scene, before being handcuffed. Of course, it was later determined that Frank Baker had not been involved in the fight or any other illegal activity and was completely unarmed. The assault upon Frank was captured on a dash camera in one of the police cars and later released to the public. Initially, the canine law enforcer who allowed his dog to maul Frank was suspended for just 30 days as punishment for his actions. Now, it has also been announced via a Facebook post that Officer Palkowicz has been fired from the St. Paul Police Department. In a Facebook message Friday, Police Chief Todd Castile said he is, quote, disappointed and upset by what the video shows. The incident happened a day after he took office. Quote, when I became chief, I promised to do everything possible to ensure that the people we serve have faith in their police department, Axtell said in his statement. I want you all to know that the video does not reflect the way we strive to do our jobs. Day in, day out, this is not the St. Paul way. During the news conference, Castile said releasing the video was, quote, the right thing to do. Quote, after the incident, I met with the man injured in the video while he was still in the hospital, Castile said. At that time, I assured and promised him a full review was being conducted. I met with him again today in my office and offered my deepest apologies on behalf of the police department. Castile said that the canine officer, identified as Brian Ficadente, was suspended for 30 days, even though a civilian review commission recommended 10 days. His suspension went into effect Thursday, November 3rd. Well, is that enough? Is that justice? A 30-day suspension for permanently injuring a man who's completely innocent, who did nothing wrong? This is going to change his life forever, his entire family's life, everyone who's affected by this. And to add insult to injury, he has to pay for these people's livelihoods, for them to continue to harass people on the street. You tell me, where are the good cops?
Someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. Yeah, we're all them good cops that people keep telling me bad apples make good cops look bad. But if 99% of cops are as good as they say, they should be able to lock a couple bad apples away. And yet they don't. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Cause their highest duty's protecting and serving their own. The first rule of policing means when in doubt, they'll shoot. And if they make a mistake, other cops will hide the truth. Even if they want to report a cop, they know that they can't. You're as good as dead on the force if you get labeled.
All right, we'll be right back. We've got more stories from CopBlock.org. Maybe yours is next. Well, this one's crazy. This is probably the craziest one, to be honest. I mean, there have been a lot of crazy ones. We just covered a guy, the cops sicked a canine to bite up an innocent man's leg. They kicked him in the ribs, broke his ribs, and collapsed his lungs. But this might be worse. Here, we'll play first the news report on this story, and then I'll give you the breakdown, and we'll play the actual video itself. Unbelievable.
Well, a Valley man arrested over the weekend for filming Metro in the process of making an arrest ends up filming his own arrest. 13 Action News reporter Marty Glazer is downtown on 4th and Fremont with the latest tonight.
You want to go to jail?
Kelly Patterson is the man behind the lens. He calls himself a police accountability activist.
Y'all just jumped on me, threw me into the street, and handcuffed me.
For 5 years, Patterson says he's been part of Nevada CopBlock.
It's a clear and neutral record of what exactly happened. So if the cops are in the right, it shows that also.
And as for what he says happened downtown on Saturday,
it's something that I didn't see coming at all. I have bruised ribs, I have a sprained elbow, and I had a knee injury where if I walk, it hurts.
Retired police lieutenant and 13 Action News crime and safety expert Randy Sutton says CopBlock, the group that Patterson is part of, is notorious for antagonizing cops.
There was apparently some interaction that took place before what we saw in this video, because there was a reference made to it when the officer initially confronted the guy that had the camera.
I told you to move on. I told you to move on. You need to move on.
Why do I need to move on?
1.
Why do I need to move on?
2, 3.
Regardless of what happened prior, Sutton says the public has a right to record.
The reality is that the police cannot stop someone from videotaping an action, and that to try and do that is not in keeping of the policies of the police department.
Okay, so you heard it. Even the head propagandist for the police, former cop who works for the news agency, he tries to say, okay, well, maybe something happened beforehand, but in the end, he has to admit it's completely legal to film the police, and that the police arresting someone for peacefully recording their activities, that's problematic, at the very least. Here's a story from Ademo Freeman, who writes at CopBlock.org. Kelly Patterson, founder of Nevada CopBlock and editor of this website, was spending his weekend doing what he usually does, filming the police on Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas. That's when Patterson witnessed Las Vegas Metro Police Department, LVMPD officers about to effect an arrest on a woman and pulled out his camera. See video above. As you see in the video, it appears that Patterson is a safe distance away from the arresting officers, but for whatever reason, a lagging LVMPD officer comes over to him, demanding him to leave. Patterson asks questions to the unknown and aggressive officer about how his actions are criminal, but to no avail. Abruptly during the exchange, he's arrested on bogus charges of obstructing a police officer and obstructing a vehicle in the roadway after the arresting officers threw him into the road. Well, that seems ridiculous in itself. The comments made by retired Las Vegas Police Lieutenant Randy Sutton are also pretty absurd. According to 13 Action News, Sutton said, quote, "CopBlock, the group that Patterson is a part of, is notorious for antagonizing cops." There was apparently some interaction before what we saw in this video, because there was a reference made to it when the officer initially confronted the guy who had the camera, Sutton said. While Sutton said this, and the news aired it with nicely edited footage, see below, you can see from the footage above that Patterson and the law enforcer had no interaction until the officer demanded Patterson leave the area, which is a violation of his right to record, especially since there was no danger or interference going on. CopBlock being, quote, notorious for antagonizing cops is also completely irrelevant. Police have to arrest people based on their actions, not the reputation of a group they're affiliated with. An affiliation that the cop who started this incident and then assaulted and illegally arrested Patterson likely wasn't even aware of. Thankfully, Sutton didn't go full copsucker by recovering and saying, "The reality is, police cannot stop someone from videotaping an action, and in doing that is not keeping up with the policies of the police department." The question now is the same as it's always been after such wrongful arrests. Will the officer learn and be held accountable for his actions? Of course, cops are investigating cops on this matter, so a fair review will be produced in a timely manner, I'm sure. Meanwhile, Patterson spent 24 hours in the local jail, faces 2 charges, and a possible injury from the interaction. Thankfully, Stephen P. Stubbs, a local Las Vegas attorney, has decided to represent Patterson in his legal matters with the city. And here is the video that Kelly Patterson recorded.
Don't touch me!
This is an arrest happening. He's recording in Las Vegas.
Hey, move on! Move on! I'm not moving on.
You want to go to jail?
For what?
Obstructing? I told
not
you to move on.
anything.
I told you to move on. You need to move on.
Why do I need to move on?
1,
Why do I need to move on?
2, 3. Let's go.
Why you can't record? Yeah, move. Recording is not obstructing.
I'm giving you a lawful order, to move on.
Come on, man.
I'm giving you a lawful order
I'm in
to
public.
move
I'm not
on.
doing anything.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You want to go to jail tonight?
For what?
Obstructing. I told you
Obstructing
don't
what?
ask to move.
For what?
We're doing an investigation. Somebody's in the
You
fight.
can do an investigation all day long.
Do you live here? Are you an idiot?
No, I'm not. Are you an idiot? Do
Are you
live
serious?
Here?
I live here. I do live here.
Yeah.
You want to go to jail?
For what?
Obstruct.
I'm not obstructing anything.
Let's go.
What's that, dude? You stop. stop. I'm not doing anything. You need to stop right now. Stop doing what?
Get off of him! Get off of him! That is so grimy! He was just recorded. That's not okay. He did not do nothing to the officer. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. We gotta do it. Get off the board. I got a good lawyer. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing. Let's have your hands.
For what? For what?
We got a lawyer. It don't even matter. We got a lawyer. We didn't do shit but report. We got a good lawyer.
Crazy story of a cop blocker recording himself being arrested. And when are the cops going to learn that, you know, when you're on video, you have an objective record of what's happening and you can prove that he wasn't interfering. So this is going to get dropped. You know, the shame of it is that this man had to endure an injury. It's stupid cops. They're all so fucking dumb. And I take what personal responsibility I can. I'm not working hard enough to abolish the police. I'm not communicating enough. I'm not putting these videos out enough. You know, I'm not contributing to CopBlock enough. There's so much more that can be done that I've got to take my little ounce of personal responsibility for the fact that people are still being brutalized by these fucking morons in costumes and badges, you know, who get away with actual crimes, murders, you know, who terrorize communities. I don't know which story to get to first. We've got one, a woman dies serving 30-day jail sentence after medical requests ignored in lawsuit. And another one that I'm going to get to, I guess I'll do the first one. Jail is hell on earth, and it escalates criminal behavior. So let's do the woman dies in jail first. A young Michigan woman serving a 30-day sentence in the Macomb County Jail died after guards and medical staff ignored her repeated requests for help, a federal lawsuit says. 37-year-old Jennifer Myers was sent to jail because, get this, she was behind on child support and died 12 days later of sepsis from a virus that left her immobilized inside her cell and even unable to eat. According to statements from the inmates inside the jail, Myers became increasingly ill each day of her incarceration until she was, quote, laying in bed, cuddled up, not even able to move or get up for mealtime. The woman had a virus. She was suffering in a jail cell. The inmates said at one point Myers was sweating so profusely that they put wet towels on her body in an attempt to cool her down. They said despite repeated requests for medical attention, she was ignored and left to die. Nobody ever came to check in on her to see if she was okay. She wasn't eating. She wasn't drinking, witnesses said. She was putting in medical requests all the time, and the nurses wouldn't do anything about it. In the federal lawsuit brought forth by Myers' family attorney, it claims that jail guards and privately contracted medical staff failed to see what was obvious to other inmates and take Myers to the hospital. The attorney stated, obviously, when someone comes into the jail, the punishment is being there. The punishment isn't to die. According to the inmate witnesses, despite Myers begging for help for days, guards and nurses deferred their responsibility onto others when she attempted to turn in requests for medical attention. Shocking. She was trying to hand them a medical request, one witness said. She said, "You're going to have to give it to my midnight staff or morning staff. I can't do anything about it." "I saw her hand it to the nurse," another witness said. She said, "You have to give this to the morning person or the night person." She wouldn't take it. One medical expert interviewed by Local 4 defenders said the sign of Myers' illness should have resulted in an examination and a hospital visit. Her family members are still attempting to get answers regarding why this didn't occur.
If she was okay.
A Local 4 Defenders exclusive. A jail sentence becomes a death sentence when a young mother dies behind bars. Good to have you with us tonight at 11. That mother was sent to jail for falling behind on child support.
37-year-old Jennifer Myers died inside the Macomb County Jail 12 days into her 30-day sentence.
Tonight, Defender Kevin Dietz joins us live with the exclusive videos of the jailhouse interviews with inmates who were with Myers in her final days. Kevin?
That's right, and here's the video right here. It is from inside the jail, and it has key interviews with witnesses who say they saw Jennifer Myers suffering for several days and was never taken to the hospital. Jenny Myers gets out of a police car in handcuffs and is escorted into the Macomb County Jail. The 37-year-old mother is patted down and ordered to put on a beige inmate outfit. She is not here for murder or assault, not even robbery. She's here for non-payment of child support, a judge saying pay $500 or spend 30 days in jail. This was the scene 12 days later, just after cellmates found the young mother dead in her cell.
We got to check her pulse. She went like this. She's like, she's ice cold. And we knew right then, you know, she was gone.
The exclusive jail video obtained by the defender shows reaction from inmates immediately following the discovery. And it shows her body being brought out on a stretcher in a body bag. Jennifer Myers wasn't murdered. She didn't commit suicide or overdose. She died from a virus slowly moving through her body. Neither the Sheriff's Department guards nor the privately contracted medical staff took her to a hospital.
The minute I touched her, she felt like she was in a meat freezer.
These two women were in the Macomb County Jail at the same time. We're not showing their faces or using their names. Jenny Myers' death occurred July 7, 2013. These video statements were just released as part of a civil lawsuit filed by attorney Robert Ayeri.
And obviously when somebody comes into the jail, the punishment is being there. The punishment isn't to die.
He claims in a federal lawsuit that jail guards and medical staff at the Macomb County Jail failed to see what was obvious to other inmates.
And it looked like she had just got out of the shower. She was sweating so bad.
The inmates say they put wet towels on Myers' body, trying to cool her down. They say the illness was not sudden. She was becoming increasingly ill each day of her incarceration.
Nobody ever came in to check on her to see if she was okay. She wasn't eating, she wasn't drinking.
In her final 3 days of life, Jenny was too sick to get off her cot at mealtime.
She was literally laying in bed, cuddled up like this, you know, like not even able to move, so.
How many hours a day would she be like that?
All day.
In jail, requests for medical attention are called kites. Inmates say they were ignored.
She was kiting all the time, and the nurses would not do nothing about it. She says, you're going to have to give it to midnight staff and morning staff. I can't do nothing about it.
If Myers was evaluated, she was not determined sick enough to go to the hospital.
The nurses aren't doing crap about it. The officers, don't give her time of day.
Local 4 medical expert Dr. Frank McGeorge is an expert in death custody cases. He studied the death certificate and autopsy report. Her official cause of death, acute sepsis. McGeorge says the signs of illness and foul smell should have warranted an in-depth exam by jail medical staff and a trip to the hospital.
To leave them in jail with an infection that ultimately leads to their death is just about the same as putting them to death.
Witnesses say, in addition to sweating profusely and not being able to get out of bed, Jenny Myers had a horrible smell.
People were like, you gotta shower, you stink, like we can't take it no more.
If she were anywhere in the normal world outside of jail, she would have taken herself to the hospital or to an emergency room.
They either did not notice or did not realize how sick she was.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. When we come back, jail is hell. This is the most shared story from CopBlock.org this week, written by Joshua Scott Hodgkin, future host of CopBlock Radio. A riveting story, over 1,000 shares, and dozens of comments. We'll be right back with that story. coming up on CopBlock Radio. All right, let's finish off this show, guys. Jail is hell on earth, and it escalates criminal behaviors. Joshua Scott Hodgkin writes, "We treat jails as though they're normal, rational part of existence, when in fact, they are an inhumane institution of torment designed to destroy the people inside of them and escalate criminal tendencies to fill more jails." Although there are no readily available facts on exactly how many people have been arrested in the United States, since, surprise, not the kind of information the police state really wants out there, the best estimates usually place about 30% of the population as having spent at least some time in jail. That means that about 70% of the population has no idea what it's like to be locked up in one of them, or what they're really like. Even a large portion of that 30% of those who have been likely spent very little time in jail, they probably didn't even really spend time on a block or a cell block with regular population. And there's a good chance they arrived drunk and slept through the entire experience. So the percentage of people who have spent days, weeks, months, and years locked in city or county jails have a really good idea of what they're like is very small. And so the public has no idea how horrible they are. When many people think of jail, especially older people, they think of the little barred-in rooms of old movies. But even when they do have a visual image of a concrete bunker, they have no idea what it is like to be in one. That little concrete cell is an echo chamber where every sound and voice reverberates into the next in a non-stop audio torture. Even the silence permeates the cell like a maddening fog. During waking hours, there is constant noise. There are loud, boisterous meatheads who don't seem to mind and just keep piling it on. Anyone who thinks that jail is a good place to think about what you've done should try memorizing the Magna Carta in a jet engine testing facility and let me know how clear your mind is on it after. Every sense is similarly attacked. The constant lights, fluorescent and flickering, never allow a darkness to find respite within. The nose is assaulted with the functions of other inmates' bodies all around the clock. The food is designed to destroy the connection between pleasure and nutrition. The clothes, blanket, and furniture all make you chafe and ache. While all 5 of your senses are being brutally assaulted, there are the behaviors of the other inmates. There is the explicit and implicit aggression in every action and jockeying for position. You are tested and teased, especially by those who have the most jail time under their belts, and the guards. If you're lucky enough to get ones who do not outright abuse you, are like waiters in a restaurant that serves indifference and apathy to a forced clientele. Nobody gives a shit about you. These are the conditions by which criminals become super criminals. It is these conditions that escalate the evil in the souls of human beings. The sheer perceptual warfare and inhumanity of the situation turns a bad puppy into Cujo, or breaks the person's spirit entirely. The Cujos do not mind jail. They can be heard talking about just doing the same as though it were no big deal. They were being bombarded with sensory overload in a concrete bunker. These people frightened me. Not because they were mean and scary. I mean, sometimes that too, but because they had allowed themselves to become the boogeymen that their captors used to scare the general populace into going along with the horrors of the jailhouse. as for those who allowed themselves to be broken, they became enablers of the system that broke them. They became its biggest supporters. They deny all the most obvious problems in order to keep moving away from the horror of their experience. So, I have found myself in the rare position of those who have experienced jail and not been changed in these ways by it. Aside from a few overnight stints, I did one 6-day and one 10-day stretch in 2 different jails. I escaped Stockholm Syndrome and the desire to get vengeance against a world that would do that to me. So my perspective is more honest than most you will hear. Jail is hell. If you support them, you support a horrifying form of social conditioning that destroys individuals and causes criminality. A jail is a feedback loop where the police state creates job security and creates unlimited growth potential. If you can live with that, I honestly don't know how you live with being you. It must be its own kind of hell. Oh, but they have cable television. And you think that's a good thing?
There's criminals enforcing the law, just ask her. So where they at, where they at? The triumph of evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at, where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at, where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. Police are trained a lot to make an arrest, but they're not required to help you when you make a request. They got no affirmative duty to either serve or protect, and they're immune from prosecution if they choose to neglect. Look at the precedent set by Talaferro, Douglas, and Warren. No one protected Jessica Gonzalez's daughter, and when she went to court to hold someone accountable for it, SCOTUS told us that it was legal for the cops to ignore. That's because their cop is an enforcer and his job's to collect, stealing money, kicking asses, and cashing forfeiture checks, writing ridiculous tickets and waging war on drugs. Our city budgets are funded by waging war on us, thanks to the good cops. So where they at, where they at? The triumph of evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at, where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at, where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. Sometimes a cop will say it's not my fault, I'm just doing my job, I'm not the guy who writes the law. I was following orders, honoring the oath I swore, and I'm like Nuremberg, war trial, principle 4. And some people seem to believe that if they don't do crime, that the cops will leave them alone and that they'll be just fine. Go ahead and tread on the Constitution, we don't mind. I can't believe that these people can even be so blind. See, what they don't understand is that the problem at hand is systemic. It goes beyond a single woman or man. When good people let evil people keep on laying the plan, the banality of evil lies in obeying command. Just ask her. So where they at, where they at? The triumph of evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at, where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at, where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough. So where they at, where they at? The triumph of evil is just a failure to act by all these good cops. So where they at, where they at? If you're dirty and you need someone to cover your back, you need a good cop. So where they at, where they at? You'll never see them snitch on someone wearing a badge, cause they the good cops. So listen up, listen up. If you ain't locking up the bad cops, you ain't good enough.
Sick video from Rob Hustle, just released. Good Cops. Go check it out on YouTube. Amazing. Just an incredible job that he did, and a great message that needs to be heard by more. Go share it on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you post content. I want to thank you for listening tonight. You know, CopBlock Radio is for you. It's for you, the people. Please submit your content at copblock.org/submit. That's how I read the stories that I'm bringing to you tonight. You can become a member of the CopBlock network. Send just a $1 donation a month. You know, helps expand the CopBlock network and get podcasts and stuff like this going in your area. And anyway, we'll do this again next week. See you soon.